So, around the time of my conversion to atheism, I was flirting with the New Age thing. I bought a book called What the Bleep Do We Know, and I was reading it. And to tell you the truth, there was a Methodist pastor who was ministering to me at that time. Now, this is shortly before I became an atheist. And this Methodist pastor was talking to me, and he was undoing all the weird stuff that I was thinking about. Like, I was thinking about the theory of relativity and all this other stuff, which is something I would commonly do whenever I was around ministers, is I would bring up esoteric topics of astrophysics and not even philosophy, just science. It was all these basically ideas of science. And one of the things he said to me was that God knows all of our choices beforehand. Now, before that, I used to think that God knew all of our choices, but he didn't know which path we'd walk on. And he said, no, God knows all of our choices beforehand, and he knows them. He knows everything about us. And I was not buying it. I did not like that idea. Because if God knew all of my choices beforehand, that means he basically caused me to have problems. If I was going to hell, he made me go to hell. But he's a Methodist, so he's an Arminian. He said we have choice. I was like, how does this reconcile that there's choice, that there's predestination? He didn't give me a good answer on that, but Boethius did. I believe in choice and predestination. I think that was the first time I ever encountered the arguments that he was presenting. And I just gotta say, it was a Methodist pastor. It wasn't some great all-time Bible scholar. It wasn't even someone that was in my denomination, because at that time I was a Lutheran, but I was basically not practicing the faith. I was a hard atheist there for about 6 months. 3 to 6 months. That was about all I could be as an atheist, because God kept calling to me as an atheist. He would not let me go. I kept having impressions of God, and one time when I was in the car, I just said, I do not believe in you, and he said, all have alike gone astray and went after their own things. I had never heard that verse before, but that's actually in Isaiah, where it talks about Jesus in the most bold and literal terms. So, there is none righteous, no, not one. All alike have gone astray and have turned to their own ways. That's what entered into my head. And as I was working, for about 3 months I was an atheist, and for another 3 months I was very, very much struggling with it. I was saying, I want to prove there's a true moral system, objective morality. That nut was the thing that cracked my atheism, because I could not prove there was an objective morality without a judge, so to speak. But I knew it. Like, I've always sensed there was right and wrong, and it wasn't something that we determined. It wasn't my opinion. So, I had to fight that particular belief structure, and then this guy comes and he ministers to me about how God knows all my choices beforehand. He knows all my choices, knows them all. Humans don't. Humans, even with time travel, they wouldn't know all your choices. They'd only be able to make guesses. So God knows the exact path I'm gonna walk down. He knows it. He knows intimately. He knows every thought before it appears. He knows every hair on my head. He knows my exact height. So why is that important? Well, this man ministered to me, and he was a Methodist. We were two different denominations. He was just telling me the core of the gospel. I had no idea if he was conservative or liberal. I still don't. But he told me about God, and that God knows all of my thoughts before I have them. What I figure about that, and I've always noticed there's a providential force over my writing that leads me to the right things, leads me to the right stuff. Providence leads me to the answers that I'm looking for. Sometimes I look very foolish, but then I figure it out slowly but surely, because no one's able to put it into such simple terms so I can explain it to someone who's just a novice. Because that's the way I am, is I explain something complex in simple terms, because I think that's what communication does. Maybe that's why people don't like me. And maybe they want the confusion, maybe they want the complexity. But most ideas are able to be boiled down to a simple idea. But not all of them. Morality being one of them, is very difficult. You can boil it down to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or love your neighbor as you love yourself. But then the question gets asked, what if you don't love yourself? What if you like to be injured and you're a masochist? Does that mean you go and you injure other people? These questions come up. It's stuff Jesus knew. He's not stupid. He saw the demoniac. He just knew from a Christian's conscience we're pure. And I think that's where the conversion comes from, is that we are pure. We don't have these weird questions that the world around us does. And that is what draws people toward our religion in the first place, is that we don't question the right or wrong aspect of things. We question the motives of the world around us, that why is it on this path? And it's simple to understand. We're on this path because people prefer sin to righteousness. And because of that, there's so much more suffering in this world than there really ought to be. And, that's my answer to the question I had, and it's a good answer, because I think when I read the Bible, both Old and New Testament, I see a good portrait, a good picture, a good answer to the question. Better answer than atheists or Hindus or Buddhists or Muslims or Taoists or Shintos or Zoroasters or, Native Americans or, tribal shaman. It's a better answer. They have a better answer. Christianity has a better answer to the question of why are we here than all the other religions. I don't think Christians know that either. That's what really frustrates me about Christians, is that they don't understand that. They think, oh yeah, life is about, if I'm prosperous, I'm living the way God wants me to live. It's like, it's not necessarily true. You could be prosperous just because you made some good business moves, and you could be a very bad person. You know what I mean? It's not about prosperity. It's about your heart. Because I've met a lot of poor people. I've met a lot of people in general who made all the right moves, and they can't move forward in life. And more that's happening. And I think Christianity gives a good answer to it, and no other religion out there really does.